Nanalo ng Family Feud ng Team Maximum Hotness ng 200,000 pesos.
Family Feud, 5:40 p.m.
Welcome to my episode that is called
Nagmamano pa.
That's okay.
This is DW News. These are our top stories. The bodies of 4 more hostages held in Gaza have arrived back in Israel. Hamas handed over the remains after Israel said that it would cut in half the number of aid trucks entering the territory. Israel said it was punishing the militants for failing to release the latest set of remains under terms of the current ceasefire. An elite unit of Madagascar's military says that it has taken charge of the country after lawmakers voted to impeach embattled President André Rajoelina. He has refused to step down since fleeing the country on Sunday after parts of the military joined youth-led anti-government protests. The U.S. government shutdown is dragging into its 3rd week as lawmakers continue to blame each other for the impasse. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that his administration will produce a list of Democrat programs that will be closed as a result of the ongoing standoff. Senate Democrats are holding out for an extension of COVID-era health benefits. This is DW News from Berlin. More on the website, dw.com.
Hi, I'm Kim Vanel in Wanganui, New Zealand. It's Wednesday, October 15th. Today, a Reuters exclusive uncovers a clandestine operation in Syria where the former Assad government moved thousands of bodies to a remote mass grave. Donald Trump threatens Hamas with military force if it doesn't disarm as the group hands over more bodies. And France's new Prime Minister scraps plans to raise the retirement age. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, 7 days a week. A Reuters investigation has uncovered the Assad government in Syria secretly relocated thousands of bodies from a mass grave near Damascus to a remote desert site. Between 2019 and 2021, trucks moved remains from Haifa to Dumer in what military insiders called Operation Move Earth. Witnesses say the goal was to erase evidence of atrocities under former President Bashar al-Assad. They say the dead are soldiers and prisoners who died in the dictator's prisons and military hospitals. The new grave site spans at least 34 trenches with a total length of 2 kilometers and may hold tens of thousands of bodies. Assad, who is now in Russia, and several ministry officials identified by witnesses as playing key roles in the operation, couldn't be reached for comment. Reuters informed the current government of President Ahmed al-Shara of its findings, but they did not immediately respond to questions. Hamas has returned more bodies of dead hostages after Israel threatened to cut aid to the enclave. So far, 9 coffins have been handed over, leaving at least 19 hostages prisoned. Hamas is refusing to disarm, and President Trump is threatening them with military strikes. President Trump says he's told Hamas to disarm, or the U.S. will force them to.
And they will disarm, and if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
Hamas has never publicly committed to downing its weapons. Hamas fighters have instead re-emerged, deploying hundreds of security forces and executing several people they accuse of collaborating with Israel. Bulldozers have begun clearing rubble from the streets of Gaza City. The local municipality is trying to reopen roads destroyed in the war so people can continue to return to what's left of their homes. But as access improves, evidence is mounting of the destruction left behind. The UN Children's Agency UNICEF says equipment crucial for saving children's lives, like neonatal ventilators, have been destroyed at Gaza's Al-Rantizi Children's Hospital. President Trump says continued support for Argentina depends on President Javier Milei's party winning this month's elections.
And if he does win, we're going to be very helpful. And if he doesn't win, we're not going to waste our time.
The comments came just days after the US announced a $20 billion currency swap to stabilize Argentina's economy. Markets in Buenos Aires dipped on Trump's remarks, rattling investor confidence. Meanwhile, investors in the US are facing a different kind of uncertainty. The government shutdown has halted the official flow of economic data, a key tool not just for Americans, but for global policymakers trying to steer decisions on currency, trade, and inflation. Fed reporter Howard Schneider says because the US economy still accounts for a quarter of the whole world's economic output, countries which have financial to be reinstated by President Emmanuel Macron 4 days later. Here's Reuters' France Deputy Bureau Chief Gabriel Stargarder.
The pension reform is arguably Macron's singular economic legacy. It was pushed through despite weeks of street protests. It was rammed through Parliament, which many of his opponents never really appreciated, particularly on the left. It was one of the things that Macron had been holding on to dearly. He didn't want to sacrifice it, and I think that by sacrificing it, or by offering it up until after the 2027 presidential election, he has realised that that was really the only way to kind of keep the government on track and stave off a real deterioration of France's political crisis. People on the right in France believe that moving the retirement age up is just a recognition of reality. People on the left view the pension and retirement age issues as sort of fundamental, and they don't believe that French people should be asked to work longer years after years of toiling away.
At least 30 news organisations, including Reuters, have declined to sign a new Pentagon access policy for journalists, warning of the potential for less comprehensive coverage of the world's most powerful military ahead of a Tuesday deadline to accept new restrictions. The policy requires journalists to acknowledge rules that could see them branded security risks and have their Pentagon press badges revoked if they ask department employees to disclose classified and some types of unclassified information. Reuters is among the outlets that have refused to sign, citing the threat posed to press freedoms. Other outlets refusing to sign include the Associated Press, Bloomberg, the New York Times, CNN, and Fox News. Chief Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell said in a statement on Monday, the policy does not ask for them to agree. The US has launched another strike on a boat off Venezuela's coast, killing 6 suspected drug traffickers. In a post on Truth Social, Trump says the strike was carried out against a designated terrorist organization, but he did not provide any details. The Pentagon is calling it an armed conflict with drug cartels. But some former military lawyers have raised questions about the legal basis for these attacks. The US military is ramping up its presence in the Caribbean, with warships, F-35s, and even a nuclear submarine. The US Supreme Court has rejected conspiracy theorist Alex Jones' appeal of a $1.4 billion defamation judgment over his false claims that the Sandy Hook school shooting was a hoax. That leaves in place a Connecticut ruling in favor of families of victims and an FBI agent who responded to the 2012 massacre. Jones still faces more lawsuits and is appealing a separate verdict in Texas. And for today's recommended read, after President Trump scored the high-profile diplomatic win of brokering a ceasefire in Gaza, the question remains of whether he can keep Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu on side to keep it afloat. Our reporters dive into just that and explore the key differences that remain in getting Trump's full peace plan over the line. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favourite podcast player. If you're listening on a smart speaker, just ask for the latest news from Reuters 7 days a week. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.
That's it for your news updates. To see more stories, open Google News.